Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and here we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often, the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today I'm joined by Toni Addinall, an accountability strategist who works with solo business owners to help them turn intention into action and ideas into actual progress. In this conversation, Toni shares her journey from a successful corporate career into self-employment and what that transformation really taught her about mindset, prioritisation, and the accountability plays when you're building something on your own. We talk honestly about balancing business with family life, the pressure to do it all, and how motherhood reshaped the way Toni approaches success, time, and of course, joy. This isn't about rigid productivity or pushing harder. It's about support, structure, and enjoying the process as you grow. It's a grounded, practical conversation with a little sprinkling of magic thrown in, especially if you've ever felt like you know what you want to do, but struggle to follow through consistently. But as always, it's so much better to hear from the guests themselves. So let's go. Hi, Toni, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I'm so delighted to welcome you here today. And the best thing is I get to find out all about you exactly the same time as the audience does. So tell us, who are you, what do you do, and how did you get here?
Hi, Diane. My name's Toni Addinall. I'll be totally honest with you, Diane. Right now, I'm trying to work out exactly what title to give myself. If you find me online, I'm calling myself an accountability strategist, but this year it's not quite fitting with me.
Okay.
Essentially, I like to partner with solo business owners who are in the place in their business where things are going well, they're looking to grow, but they feel really alone with everything that they're trying to do all by themselves. And by trying to do all of those things by themselves, there's lots of questions that they ask themselves around, surely this should be easier by now. Why can't I just get on and do it?
Yeah.
Why do I keep procrastinating on this? Why is this so hard? Surely I should be able to do this a lot easier. And I like to be that partner to that business owner because I think that it's not only more joyful and fun when we do things together, but actually nobody does these things alone. If you look in the business world, people have teams, they have support people, they have executive assistants, they have board members, they have teams and teams and teams of people. Why do we feel that we should have to do things alone? We shouldn't. And so I like to work with the business owners to help them get really focused on what it is that they want. Because I also think that that's something that we don't do very often. We don't actually think about what is it that we really want and what does that look like. And particularly in the online world, there's lots of noise telling us what maybe we should want or what maybe we should have. And that's sitting and really working out what you want and what's important to you. Is something that I really like to help my clients get really clear on. And then each month looking at, okay, well, what does that mean for this month? How do we move closer towards that? How do I help you take those steps forward? And when you have those questions, when you're procrastinating, when something's getting in the way, how do we make sure that you come back to ultimately your goal and begin to move forward and achieve those things that you want to achieve? So that's how I love to work with my clients.
Amazing. We have a lot of synergy there with what we do, and it was as soon as you said what you call yourself or what your label is or however we want to say that, I have exactly the same thing because I am a strategist too, but I've never felt aligned with that word. Never felt aligned with it at all. And at first I tried to kind of run away from the word coach and mentor. But it wasn't until one of my clients, introduced me to somebody else. Well, two clients, one introduced me as their coach and one introduced me as their mentor. And I'm like, the people I'm working with are calling me that. What is my problem with calling myself that. And then the problem with the word strategist was, until I'd been in the online space, I didn't really know the word existed outside of like chess. And then I've got a stutter and can't really say it that well sometimes. So it was just like, right, okay. But I totally get that thing. So I play, and I will still play this year with what you call yourself, because and it is an online space thing, I think, because in the real world, you'd be a consultant, or you would have a title that'd be given to you within the business space that you worked in. But it's having to come up with this. It's for your messaging, isn't it? So to come up with so that people understand what you do, but it's really hard to put it in a box sometimes with what you do. But the accountability stuff I love, and really love hearing you say that, because I completely agree that it is such a missing component for so many people. They think that if they do the plan and if they get the strategy and they get all the bits, that'll be it, that'll be the answer. But it's the accountability and the executions get it done, because the plans are all very well and good, but until you do them, it's just some words and pretty pictures on a bit of paper or on a Notion board, or however you choose to do your plan. So how did you get into this? How did this happen for you?
Oh, okay. Okay, where to start? So my career started about 24 years ago. I joined the Royal Bank of Scotland as a graduate. Had a fantastic career. If I'm on it, like, if being completely honest, when I think back to my career and I think back to the support, albeit one or two moments that weren't particularly pleasant, I worked with amazing people. I had some really great managers. I had a really good experience. So I hear a lot of stories from a lot of people that have started their own business because of really poor treatment in work. I didn't experience that. I was really fortunate. And even when I went through pregnancy, maternity leave, and returning after maternity leave, the treatment that you should expect to get, basically. So really, really fortunate. So I never saw myself being self-employed, ever. And the last couple of businesses that I've worked for have been owner-led businesses. So I've worked directly with the owners of that business. And I absolutely loved that. I loved the opportunity to be a really key part of the business and to absolutely see every day the impact of my work on that business. But I never thought that I would be the one owning a business. Until one day I was stood delivering a session for our global coaches. And while mid-presentation, this voice came in my head and just said, you need to go and do this on your own. And I was like, okay, where did that come from? And what on earth does this mean? And no. And it didn't go away. It didn't go away at all. And then for lots of reasons sort of around how I've learned about how the brain works, I started seeing all of these signs everywhere, and people would be saying things to me, and it just kept putting more and more evidence in this, you've got to quit your job and go it alone box. And I fought against it because my why had always been my son. I'd always wanted to give my son the best life possible. And in my mind, to do that, I needed security, I needed financial security, and I didn't see how I could get that working self-employed. I've always got that from the age of 13, from being employed, doing a good job, getting a good salary. But all of a sudden, I realised, actually, I've achieved that. And Ben was 18. And I don't necessarily need that anymore. And all of a sudden, it was like, I've achieved my goal. Now what? And I think that was what this voice in my head was saying. Like, now it's your time to do something that's about you. Fought a lot, had a very internal battle, made myself physically ill. I ended up with severe eczema, and had infected eczema on the back of my knees, which is a pain I have never experienced. Because I just had this real fight in my mind. Financial security, you've got a good life, you've got a good salary, you may not be flying first class, business class, but if you want to go out and buy a new pair of shoes, you can. If you want to go on holiday next week, you can. Why on earth are you going to give all of that up for something completely unknown and starting from scratch? But all I knew was that was what I should be doing, and that it would work, and that I needed to do it. And so we went on holiday as a family. because it impacts my husband and my son. And they said, you know what, we're behind you, go for it. Came back, handed in my notice in a week, and 4 weeks later, sat in this very spot that I am now, and announced to the world on Instagram that I'm now self-employed. And so that's how it all came.
Amazing. Is so interesting to hear, because a lot of the stories, obviously there's lots of stories on this podcast of people starting their own businesses. That's kind of the premise behind it, obviously. But there's the majority, I would say, are either out of trauma, a big, massive life event, becoming a mum. My story is becoming a mum.
Okay.
And there's always this kind of moment that they can see. You had that moment, but the moment wasn't anything almost external happening. It was an internal thing. Have you, I was going to say, have you always had voices in your head? I don't mean, have you, do you believe in that? Is it something that was brand new to you, this kind of extra essence, belief in the universe? You said you started seeing signs, learning how the brain worked. Is it something that you always had and always thought, or was even that brand new to you before you took the leap?
That's a really interesting question, because it's something that I've been reflecting on a lot lately for many reasons. So I think when I was younger, I think I was a lot more sort of in tune, sort of spiritually, with things like that. And an example of that is where I failed my driving test 3 times. And I mean, I'm quite resilient and persistent, but on the third test, I was like, no, I need my car because I need the freedom. And so I bought a book and I learned about visualization, and I taught myself visualization. And every night I was visualizing passing that driving test. And then I passed on my fourth test. So it was always something that was there. But for many reasons of things that were going on at home, I kind of steered away from it and sort of pushed it away. But in the last few months, I've really been in sort of investigating it more, and I've joined a spiritual mastermind, and I've been learning a lot more about that, because I feel that there is something that was always there, and intuition always, it played a big part. I've been made redundant 3 times as well. You talk about sort of the big life things, like those big life things happened to me. Redundant 3 times, had a baby, but yeah, as you say, sort of none of those things led me to self-employment. It was this voice. But during one of those redundancies, I was offered a job, and as I mentioned, that financial security and maintaining that lifestyle, and Ben at the time was still younger, I didn't feel that job was right. And there was another job that I hadn't even been interviewed for yet, and it was still in the conversations of having an interview. And I remember when they offered me this job, I just cried. It was like, this isn't right. But again, that contradiction in me was, well, you need to accept it because you need the security. But this voice was just like, no, it's not the right thing to do. So I turned it down. And then the other job, had a conversation, ended up getting that job. And it was everything that I'd asked for, because Ben had said to me, I'd still like you to take me to school 1 day a week. And this job was 5 days a week. And this job was 4 days a week. And so I turned that down with this sort of half of me like, no, what are you doing? But then this true, real sense of, no, this is the right thing to do. Say no, there's something better. And then the better happened as well. So I think it's always been there. I'm now exploring it a lot more to be able to be more conscious of it, and I guess tune into it and use it much better.
Yeah, because I think there's lots of people that, if they were honest with themselves, they may have had those moments, but they've chose not to listen. And perhaps you chose not to listen at the other times because, again, going up against societal norms and shoulds versus learning to trust yourself and your own intuition, which I suppose maybe each time you've done a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, kind of leading you to the path that you're now on. It's just really interesting to me, because I think, particularly as strategists, people don't expect us to be that way. And I spent a long time, when I came into the online space, the kind of first 6 months to a year, saying, I'm not that way. I'm not that way. I don't really. And then the more it was coming, I was like, I am actually a bit, because I do believe in the universe, and I do believe that we can visualize, always alongside action, obviously, and we can manifest. And I've got my crystals, and I was like, no, actually, I can be both of those things. I can be powdering my crystals under the moon while I do a spreadsheet. Those two things can exist with each other, and actually they're really powerful when they do. But it's just it is that societal shoulds and norms and what that should look like versus, trust in yourself, trust in your own intuition. So why strategy and accountability? What got you into that? Is that what you initially stepped out into the world doing, or has that evolved over time?
That's again a really interesting question, because when I first started, I remember I went to Ideas Fest. So my first day of self-employment was the 27th of August, and I went to Ideas Fest, which was in the September, I think. And I was talking to somebody, and she said, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I've just started. I kind of know what I want to do, but I don't think it's enough." And she just a real straight challenge. And I was like, "Oh, I really like that." So I'd always thought that accountability wouldn't be enough for a business. Like, it's not as sexy as sales, and
Yes.
it's not as clear cut as I'll manage your social media for you. It was like, do people really want that? Do they need that? Will they pay for it? So, and I'll be totally honest, like the first year of business was very much sort of really still tweaking that and understanding what it looked like and how I wanted that accountability to work with my clients. But where it came from is right back to what I have done throughout my career. So when I started in the bank, I was a team manager. And I ran the statements team. So this is how old I am. This is back when you still used to get paper statements in the post. And my team used to post them out. And we had a project to do. They wanted to reduce the number of statements that were being sent out manually so that they could increase the number that were being sent out automatically. And I'd been to university and obviously done assignments and things, but I'd never run a project before. And it just came so naturally to me, and I absolutely loved it. And this idea of being asked to do something, creating a plan, and then delivering it at the end, I was like, this is amazing. I remember at the end we had pizzas in and we had a celebration, and it was like, oh, brilliant, because we'd achieved this project on time, in line with what was required. And then I remember about a week or so later, there was some communication. We were the only ones that had done it, and nobody else had done it. And I was like, well, why haven't you done it? Like, it's really quite simple. And then I ended up moving into a project management role and realizing actually my natural strengths are identifying where we need to be, creating a plan to get there, and getting there. And there's a lot that comes with that in terms of communicating and collaborating and getting other people to do things. And so that's always been sort of an underlying current all the way through everything that I've done in my career. And then I spent years in learning and development. I've been designing and delivering leadership programs, but that's all about project management as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so this project management thing was there. It's always about achieving a goal and getting there. And I know what that feels like to achieve a goal, and it feels incredible. I also know what it feels like when you miss a milestone or when you get in your own way. And that doesn't feel as incredible. That doesn't feel very nice. And sometimes if you can't get over that feeling quickly, you can't get to the achieving the goal space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love helping people with. And I started my business because I'd achieved my main goal of giving Ben the life that I'd always wanted to give him. Like, I know what that's felt like. And as we've spoken about, a number of people start their business because of some trauma, or a lot of people start it because they have children and then they want to spend more time with their children. I want to be able to help people achieve their goal of having a successful business that gives them the time that they want to spend with their children and gives them and their family the life that they want to give to their family, because I did that for me and my family, and I know how much it means.
Mm-hmm. And it does, and it means so much. And so many people, particularly women, are like, it's not surprising to me how full the online space is of women entrepreneurs, because we are forced into it, or we take it by choice because we don't feel there is another choice. We don't feel there is somewhere else where we can work flexibly. And that certainly was the case for me. started my business after the end of my second maternity leave, when quite simply I couldn't make it work with my previous employers, who had been marvelous. I had 2 babies within 19 months. So, I'd certainly tested them. And we just couldn't make it work. And I had a pretty big job. So I knew what it took to do that job. And I'm like, I can't just go back and I can't give what I know that job needs. So regardless of even the pressure from those above me, I was like,
Yeah.
I just would be miserable, and I remember I went back to work for 6 months in between the 2 babies. And I remember in those 6 months thinking, I'm not pleasing anybody here.
Yeah.
The mornings were fine, but I was having to leave work at 4 to make sure that I got to nursery before 6.
Yeah.
Because where I live, the motorways between the work and it was just, sometimes it meant I was getting there at 5:15. Sometimes it meant I was the last parent running at 10 to 6. And that's not a nice feeling, going to pick your baby up.
No, it's not.
And then I felt like I was leaving work too early and leaving everybody there when I was meant to be the one in charge. And it was just like, this isn't the feeling. And there was nobody else's feelings I was thinking about then. There was nobody putting pressure. This was just about me. And I
Yeah.
was like, I am giving nothing to anybody here. That's how I felt. And then we just couldn't, as I say, after my second maternity leave, we just couldn't make it work. And then that's when I entered into the online space. And I didn't even know it existed before
No, me neither.
for my maternity leaves. I didn't even know it was a thing. Obviously, I knew about social media and things like that, but not this business creating businesses in this online space. So it's just, as I say, it's not, and it is, I do believe that anybody can have that successful business that they want to have and what that looks like to them. Like you say, you're not getting on first class flights, but you are living the life you want to live and you live in a life of choice. And when I first came into the online space, and I've spoke about this a lot in this podcast, I had a big problem with the word freedom because I thought it
Mm.
was used in this way to sell a lifestyle that doesn't really exist. And then until somebody said to me, because I talked about, I want choice. I don't want freedom, I want choice. And then somebody said to me, you do realize the greatest freedom you could ever have is choice. And I was like, okay, you've just put me back in my box. All right, okay, I want freedom too. So when there's that reframe of that thing, but I do believe in it is, and I do want choice. I want to pick my children up from school, drop them off at school, only have to ask when there's a big event happening in my business, things like that. But on the general Tuesday, I'm the one dropping them off and picking them up. That was really important to me. My eldest started school in September, and the fact that I can walk her to school and walk back is one of the greatest joys that I've got. You can say you're lucky and you can say all the other things, but I'm also building this life on purpose.
Yes.
And we're building it as a family and we're building it as a team. But like you said, you don't do it alone. You need support. And I think, and I don't know why, and maybe it's the female entrepreneur thing that we think we have to do it alone, that we shouldn't be asking for help, that, when, like you said, you look around at every business owner and every male entrepreneur in the online space, they are not doing it alone. They are leaning on each other. They are asking for help. They are collaborating. They have coaches upon coaches helping them. So what does it look like working with you in the online space? What is it that you do? How do you facilitate?
So I always start with helping my clients get really clear on what they want, which may sound really obvious, but actually so many people are really unclear on what they want and what their goals look like. And they've got this big sort of goal of, I want my business to do well and I want to earn some money. But actually, okay, what does that really look like? And so I think we get caught up with doing the turning up on social media and doing the content and doing all of the things, but we're not thinking about where's that lead into. So it always starts with getting really clear on what that looks like. And that also really helps me understand my client as well, because I work in a partnership. I work closely, like my clients achieving their goals, that's my business. Like that's my goal, is for my clients to achieve their goals. So I need to understand why that's important to you. And I'm also very good at seeing things and hearing things that aren't said. So if somebody's talking about a goal and there's just this misalignment between, is that what you really want, or is that what you think that you should want based on what you see on social media or everything that you hear? So we get really clear on that. And that's our focus. That's our focus for the month. Because I think let's make things achievable. And yes, have a goal for the year, and yes, have a goal for the quarter. But what are we looking to achieve this month? And then really looking at, okay, what does that mean in terms of actions? And helping people identify the actions that they need to take and do it in a way that works for them. One of the things that nobody is ever taught is time management and planning. And how do you move from here to here? So many people then they figure it out themselves. But that's one of the things that people won't say. I don't know how to do that, because everybody assumes that everybody else knows how to do it. And everybody assumes that everybody's really good at it. And I'm yet to find many people that are really good at planning their time. Now, mums in work who need to leave at 4 o'clock to do the nursery run get really good at scheduling and planning their time. But one of the things I think as well is that there's this idea that we can manage time, and we can't manage the time. We just need to plan with our time. And so what I often find my clients doing when we get into this space of, okay, what does this week look like? How are you going to move closer towards your goal this week? Is they'll always start by telling me that what's on their to-do list. And then I'll let them talk to me and reel off the 15, 20 things that are on the to-do list. And then we'll break that down into, okay, what's really important? What's going to move you towards your goal? How much time does that need? And that's always a question that trips people up, because they soon realise that the first thing on their to-do list isn't actually an action, it's a project. And that project needs 5 hours. And so they're never going to be able to do that in one day. So getting really clear on what are the actions, what time do you need? And I really like to bring energy into it as well. Because if people are telling me that they need to create some content or they need to write a sales page, okay, what energy do you want to bring to that? Do you need to be focused? Do you need to bring creative energy? How do you want to feel when you're writing that, so that in that sales page you can really bring through who you are, what you're offering, and the results that you can give your clients? And so if they tell me that that's about creativity and getting really into a flow, and then they tell me that they're going to do that at 3:30 in the afternoon, is that when you feel creative? No. Okay, so when do you feel creative? 10 o'clock in the morning, when I've had my morning coffee and I just get, right, okay, well, let's schedule that in for 10 o'clock then. And so it's really working with the individual on what works for them in terms of what they need to achieve and what they don't need to do, what they need to achieve and how they can best do that. And then I will work with them remotely via WhatsApp. We'll create a plan in whatever way works for them. So people love spreadsheets, other people hate spreadsheets, but some kind of plan that says, okay, these are my goals, these are my key actions, this is my focus. And then I can have access to that. And then if I see something, I can just drop a WhatsApp. You said you were going to do this today. Has that happened? No. Right. Okay. What's going on? What's stopping you? Because my belief around accountability isn't the accountability that we hear in the news and that we hear all around, which is sort of holding people account to their behaviours. It's not about why haven't you done that? Get on and do it. Accountability for me is really understanding, okay, what got in the way? What stopped you from doing that? And let's bring it back. Like, is what you've wanted to do going to help move you forward? And if it isn't, well, let's let it go. But if it is, we need to work out what's stopping you. Why aren't you doing it? And so then working with them to work that out. And then following that process throughout the week and the end of the month, right, where are we against where we wanted to be at the beginning of the month? What's worked well? What's not worked so well? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to change? Let's go again, each time taking those steps. Because improvement and growth doesn't just happen like that. It happens.
Yeah.
And I'm here for each of those little bits of steps to help you move forward.
Yeah. The thing that always stands out to me when I'm working with my own clients, and the way you've spoken there as well, is that People are very good at the to-do lists. They're very good at writing it all down and, this endless to-do list. But it's the prioritization of that and understanding the difference between the stuff that makes your business tick, like the stuff you have to do on a daily basis, that's going to happen regardless. It's the stuff you will do regardless. But it's that stuff of working on your goals and prioritizing those things, because I think what people do too often is they do the stuff that will happen regardless because that's what keeps the lights on, and they'll do it because they have to, and that's what they're used to doing, and they'll fill their days with that. But then they'll be like, oh, but I'm nowhere closer to my goal. But they don't realize I've not taken any action that day that is any closer to that. They've just done the stuff. And you have to prioritize. And the time management is finding the time for that. And it so often means letting other things go. It so often means stop spending time on things that are, not as important. Spending the time on the content when they don't understand where that content is leading. There's no point putting posts on Instagram every day if you don't know what the purpose of that post is. And it's that prioritization that I think is really powerful for people to learn through accountability and what you are doing.
That's why I think it's really useful to have somebody else that you're working with to do that, because sometimes we need to be given permission to not do something. Sometimes we need to be challenged as to why we're doing it, because, as you say, we just get into those habits and we just do things. And as humans, our brain likes that. It likes structure, it likes routine, and it just gets on with things. And it's not until you have someone say, well, why are you doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And then people look at me like I'm crazy sometimes. It's like, do you have to do that? Well, of course I have to do it. Well, why do you have to do it? Well, I've never really thought about that before. Okay, well, let's think about it now. Because the answer might be that you do have to do it, but the answer might be that you don't have to do it as well. But I'll be here and I'll give you the permission not to do that, because that means that you're going to do something that is going to move you towards your goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, as you know, I ask everybody who comes onto the podcast 3 joy questions. And the first joy question is the joy spotlight, a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business, or work.
So for me, when I look back, there was a year that I think started to sow that seed of me moving into being self-employed and starting my business. And that was the year that I spent as a coach, coaching managers and leaders through their apprenticeships. And I was working with one absolutely incredible individual who has become one of my closest friends because I work very closely with people. When she started on the apprenticeship, she was a stand-in team manager. Within a couple of months of starting the apprenticeship, she'd got the team manager role. We worked together weekly. There is nobody better for taking action on learning. So learning, applying it, testing it, asking the questions, working out what did work, working out what didn't work, really using me in the best possible way. And we worked together for about 18 months. And then when she achieved her distinction, I could not have felt more joy for her, for the support that I was able to give her. But then very shortly after, or around about the same time, actually, it might have been, she got a double jump promotion, which caused a bit of a stir. But it was absolutely incredible. And since then, she's gone on to be promoted, I think, twice further. And she is just a powerhouse in her business. She is incredible. And being part of that journey with her and that experience and what she developed over the course of those years and what she's continued to develop is just one of the most joyful things that I could ever think of being part of.
My God, I love that story. It's not...
She's amazing.
It's not very often on this podcast, and I don't know if it's the audience or the guests, perhaps, because we've all left something behind. Is it a true story of how fabulous traditional business can be?
Mm.
And that is one of those stories. So thank you so much for sharing that. How amazing. So do you think, as you said, that was the seeds that really started to sow that, oh, I could do this and I could help more people?
Yeah, Yeah, I think that was exactly when it was so, because there was a couple of other people that I worked with that were great and did it. There was somebody else that got a distinction. She worked really, really hard. Yeah, Tasha's just sort of ultimate star. But yeah, that's sewed it. It's like, this is what I want to do. Like when I first started working with Tasha, she was questioning whether she could do the team manager role, and now she's a senior operations manager. And just being with her and supporting her through that, I feel that joy with her. And so yeah, I think that was there, and it just grew. And as in the couple of years afterwards, I changed roles, and I was working with a small team of people, and I'd be the one that they would come to. Quite often, this is sort of that brain thing. Towards the end, there was a lot of people saying, "Have you thought about being a coach? Have you thought about doing this for yourself? You're really, really good at this." And so, yeah, I think that was the seed, and it just grew. And then it was, yeah, the voice, go and do it yourself. And that's what I want. I want to create more people like Tasha in the business world that achieve what the corporate success looks like in terms of, or well, I don't necessarily believe that corporate success means climbing the ladder, but in terms of achieving whatever success looks like to you in your career, yeah, that's what I want to help business owners achieve in their own business.
Mhm. I think what's really good about that story as well, and the bit that I particularly love, is that through strategy, accountability, tools, systems, how you helped Tasha, at you worked on her self-belief, and you worked on her self-trust, and you worked on, because I think so often people think that you have to go and work on your business strategy, your plans over here, and then you need to find a mindset person over here to do it, when actually they come hand in hand. And yes, you'll still have people who are standalone. I'm not taking away those standalone at all, because they're
Yeah, I
the
agree.
experts. But I can't work with a client and not work on their mindset, because
It's 90%
yeah,
of what they do.
yeah,
That's what gets in the way. It's not because people don't know how to do something or they can't post a post on
hmm
Instagram. It's the mindset that's stopping them pressing the post button. So
hmm
the mindset has to be a key part of it for me.
And like you say, the questions that you ask and the prompts that you'll give to say, well, why are you doing that? Do you want to do
Mhm.
that? You've told me you want this goal, yet you're over here doing these things. It's having that person to think, and all of those things are mindset, because the procrastination, they're putting it off, they're not thinking it's important, thinking they can build a business without doing it, whatever X, Y, and Z. There's always something stopping, including ourselves. That's, I need somebody
Absolutely.
doing
Yeah.
that to me too. Just because I can
Yeah.
tell other people doesn't mean I don't have somebody doing exactly the same to me. So yeah, and sometimes it is, my membership call it when I give them a kick up the bahookie. So I think
Nice. Yeah.
obviously the Scottish thing. So but
I
yeah, I
like
think I said that to them once, and now it's a thing. They'll message me on WhatsApp and be like, "I need a kick up the bahookie today, please." I'm like, right, okay. But we all need that, and we all need that.
yeah.
Whether it's you know, an arm round the shoulders, a big hug, or indeed a kick up the bahookie. We need those things to keep ourselves in check, and the fact we don't have to do it alone. So yeah,
Absolutely.
love that. The second one is the inspired by joy, a person or a book that stays with you day to day.
My son, deep breaths of feeling the even before he was born, he was always my biggest why. So my childhood was not one that I would have chosen for myself had I have had the choice. And I was very aware from a very young age, probably going back to what we spoke about earlier, in terms of sort of that intuition and just sort of a deeper knowing, that there was more than the challenges and the childhood that I had. And very early on, I made a promise to myself that when I had a child or children, that I would give them the life that like I would have loved to have had as a child. So that kept me going. I mentioned about the driving tests,
Yeah.
and the fail. I didn't do as well in my A levels as I wanted to do. I failed my second year at university. I haven't made things easy for myself. There's been some really tough things along the way, and each time I came across them, it wasn't like there was no giving up, because I had this really strong vision of what it was going to look like for my child. And so therefore I couldn't give up. So I would always find a way. I believe that there is always a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always found a way. And out of each of those struggles and challenges, something even better has always come along. And then when Ben was born and it was sort of a real person, then that continued. And then the joy that he brought to me every single day. And I've been reflecting on this a lot over Christmas because I've really missed him over Christmas. He's still here. He still lives with us. He goes to university, but he's chosen to stay at home. He still lives here, but he's 19. I don't see him very much. And the joy of listening to your child laugh is one that if we could bottle it and sell it,
Yeah.
like you would never need to do anything again in your life, because I don't know, it just touches every single part of you. And so as Ben was growing up, I always used to say, oh, he's 3, it's the best year, and he's 4, it's the best year. Every year just got better and better and better. And so he always inspired me before he was even here to be the best version of myself. And then being a mum, as you know, I mean, it doesn't come with any kind of rule book. Like, there's no
No,
process for that.
it
No
definitely
idea what I'm
doesn't.
doing with that. And so just learning from him as well, and learning how to communicate, learning how to deal with challenges, learning how to comfort him when he's had a really bad day. Just all of that stuff just has helped me become a better person and help me become the person that I am. And I'm now patiently waiting, because people keep telling me that boys do come back sort of about 22, 23. I'm patiently waiting for him to come back to me, but I couldn't be more proud of him either. And the things that he's doing now, and how hard he works in his part-time job. I was very worried that sort of a child that had been given everything, what that might do to them. But he works so hard. He understands the value of money. He understands sort of the importance of working hard and what that means and what it looks like. Don't get me wrong, he's not perfect, but he's my boy, so he's perfect to me. So yeah, Ben, always.
That is such a lovely thing. And the way you speak about him, you can see like how proud you are of him, and the fact that it was a goal, a wish, a dream before he was there, and you knew that was, because I didn't know when I was younger if I wanted children or not. I was very much just not sure. I never grew up dreaming about the wedding day and the babies and all of that. I wasn't sure. And then when the decision was made, we would like children, we couldn't have them for years and years. So ours was, and just, so our story was we didn't think we could have them. I've got some chronic health issues. So we decided that we would concentrate on my health and not go down the IVF route, because that possibly could have made things a lot worse for me. And Ash, my partner, was just like, no, we're not doing that. You're here right now. Let's not, give you a worse quality of life type thing. And then we decided we're going to travel the world. We're going to do all these things. And then COVID hit. And I did have surgery. And then I got pregnant after the surgery during COVID.
Wow.
So it was very lovely. And then you think lightning won't strike twice, and it did. We had another one very,
Nice.
very
I love
quickly.
that.
So we feel very, very lucky and very blessed and very grateful. And that is one area of my life that I will say it was luck. There's no other way for me to put it, because we tried for nearly 5 years before that. And but I don't think I fully understood I always thought I could be quite a selfless person. I always thought about people a lot. That's kind of always something that I was. And then you have a child. And then you realize what being selfless really means, and how you literally will put them before any of your own comfort. Or, it has kind of astounded me how much that has changed for me. And because I had children slightly older as well, I'd had multiple lives before my children.
Yeah.
I'd had not just a life, I'd had multiple different lives and different stories and things before they came along. So it was a lot to get used to and a lot to, take on. But hearing you talk about before he was here, and that's kind of what you were building up to, because I was building up, I wanted a big life. I knew I wanted a big life, but I didn't know that I wanted a big life for children until they were a factor. So yes, it was just such a lovely way to describe it. And now that mine are here and they're still very little, it's completely my why. And I know some people say that you have to have a deeper why. And in so many other ways, I do have deeper whys because I don't do a podcast for my children. I don't do the type of business for my children. There is other whys I have of why I do certain things. But I never had a business of my own before I had kids. So how can I say that I would have done it without them? So you just don't know what junction you would have got to decide to do it. So they are absolutely my why. And the days that I don't feel like showing up, don't feel like doing it, want to burn it all down to the ground and you know check out, I'm like, remember why you're doing this, remember what you're doing it for, and it is for my family as a whole and the life that I want us all to have. But that's such a lovely way to look at having a child, bringing a child into the world and the life you want to create for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your story as well. I we tried to have a second one and that just didn't happen for whatever reason. And I think that makes it even more special with
Yes.
Ben and how much sort of how even more motivated that I was for him. I kind of felt I always felt I had to give him even more because I felt that I'd let him down by him not having siblings. So there was an extra level of not pressure, because I think that's the wrong word, because I was doing it to myself,
Yeah.
but this extra reason of giving him even more because I'd not given him ultimately the thing that I thought that I should give him
Yeah.
based on society
Yeah.
again. So yeah, I get when you talk about being lucky and how that feels. I can understand that.
It's so fascinating about what we do to ourselves as women and mothers,
Oh, I
because
know.
when I found out that I was pregnant with my second, my eldest wasn't even one. And I cried for 3 days because I thought I was taking away her babiness.
Wow.
I thought, just so like you saying you not giving and here's me giving the sibling. The sibling isn't even here yet. We weren't even at the kind of 3-month mark or anything like that. And I'm sitting on the stairs crying because she's still a baby and she's still going to be a baby when this baby comes. And now when you see them, you can't imagine life
Yeah.
without the two of them, when the two of them always were meant to exist together.
Mm.
And we have good days and bad days. My girls are, what is it my best friend calls them? Spirited. They are spirited. They're my girls. And when people talk about boys being the ones that like draw on things, break things, my girls maybe should have
No.
been. So yeah, so I can't imagine. But I did have that thing of, so no matter what we do or what we give as women, we tend to have this guilt thing of not
Absolutely.
quite getting it right at any point. I mean, there's a whole load to unpack there, but it is
There is.
such a fascinating thing that there was you feeling guilt for not being able to, and there's me feeling incredibly like it was this burst of emotion, like, what did we do right for this to happen? And for anybody who hasn't been able to conceive or has conceived through loss or things like that will know that feeling, that fear of, because I remember all through my second pregnancy, I was like, we've been too lucky.
Yeah.
I'm so scared. We've been so lucky. We've got Ellen, we've got our first. How has this happened? This wasn't. So there's just that fear and that guilt and all these things kind of wrapped up in it. And it's always becoming a parent, no matter what the story is. Obviously, some are different and more difficult stories than others, but it just
Yeah.
fascinates me because it
Yeah,
changes
me
you
too.
beyond anything at all. So yes, they are definitely my deepest why. Definitely my deepest
I
why.
love that.
And the last question is the joy killer, the thing that you would like to see removed from the world.
The to-do list. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there is a space. Getting everything out of your head and onto paper. Great, wonderful exercise. A 10-minute, 15-minute to-do list of 4 or 5 things that you can just get done in 20 minutes, cross off. Like when you're in the house and it's like, right, I need to change the bed, clean the kitchen, put some washing in. Like, I know that might not take 10 minutes, but it's like, right, okay, bang, bang,
Tick,
bang,
tick.
done. Great. Feel great. But to try to plan and prioritise your day or your week based on a great big long list of things on a to-do list, no, it's the ultimate joy killer, because everybody will recognise this when I talk about this. You will write your big long to-do list. You will get to the end of the day and you've crossed 3 things off, which brings you a little bit of joy because you're crossing things off. But you've added 5 things to it and you've still got the other 10 things that you haven't done. And then at the end of the day, rather than being able to think, today's been a good day, it's been productive, I've achieved this, this, and this, all you look at is all of the things that you haven't done. And then you go to bed thinking about all of the things that you still need to do the next day. There is no joy in that at all. No joy. So absolutely use a to-do list to get things out of your head, but then create a plan, prioritize. Look at what a good day would look like. Look at what is aligned with your energy and create a plan of your day based on what you can achieve in that day. And then you use that to measure the success of your day at the end of it, not what you've crossed off or not crossed off on your to-do list.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I always speak to my clients. I have one kind of dump of a to-do list that I keep mainly digitally because I have it on my phone, so that if something comes in my head when I'm dealing with the kids or I'm out and about or whatever, I'm like, put it on. Some of them have got time limits on it, as in I need to do that by that point or pay this or do whatever it is. And some of them are just there for me to go on. And I don't look at that every day because it would be the most depressing thing to go and look at
Absolutely.
every day, which is why some of them have reminders on them so that it'll pop up on my phone to remind me to do it a timely fashion that it needs to be done in. But like you, I'm like, my clients always laugh that everything's three with me. Pick three. The power of 3. Just pick 3 things that you're going to do today. And if you have some more time, you get to look at that big, massive to-do list and take something else off it. Brilliant. But if you don't, you've done your day. But it goes back to this punishing ourselves.
Yeah.
And constantly thinking we haven't done enough. And whereas my thing is, a CEO prioritizes. A CEO knows what their business needs to do to get to that next goal and only focuses on the things to do with that next goal. That if somebody else comes into the board meeting and says, oh, what about this? Well, that's a great idea, but we're doing it in Q2 because Q1, we need to focus on getting this done. That's how people need to be treating their businesses and their to-do lists and almost their lives, so that you aren't getting caught up. I mean, you could walk around your house and think, could do that, this needs done, that needs done, that needs done, that, but they're not the priority today.
Absolutely.
You know, and we have
Absolutely.
if you work from home, you have to have that. Because if I didn't walk around with blinkers at times to make sure I get my work done, I would never get any work done because I'd be like, oh, that needs to be done, or I need to go and do that. And, you know, and you have to have that discipline. Funny enough, I have more discipline when it's dishes that need washed than when it's something else fun. You know, I have to leave the dishes. I've got work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that as an
But it's that constant fight for more when actually, and like we said earlier in this podcast, strategy should be simplifying. You know, the most important thing about being accountable and productive is prioritization, so that you can actually get things done and not just constantly set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, absolutely. The job's never done.
Ever.
You never get to the end of the day and the work is done. There will always be more to do, especially when you're wanting to grow your business and achieve more success, make more money, have more impact, whatever it is that you're looking to do. You're not going to do that in one day, and nobody wants to.
No.
So just take each day and celebrate each day and move on each day. The job, it will never be done.
Exactly.
Don't try to do it all.
No, you can't, because we can't, no matter how good people think that they are. So if people want to come and find you, chat to you, find out more about what you do, where do they come and find you, Toni?
Instagram primarily. I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram. I am thinking about getting back into LinkedIn, but I'll be honest, I open it and it makes me feel like I'm back at work. So that doesn't necessarily bring me too much joy yet. But yeah, Instagram is primarily the place to come and find me. And I love having conversations and understanding about people. So please do just drop me a DM. Let's chat.
Go and say hello. I'll put the links in the show notes. You can just go straight there and click the link and go and find Toni and say hello. Now, don't let anybody
Lovely.
go without asking them the final question, which is, what is the joy legacy that you would like to leave behind?
I would like people to enjoy the process more of achieving the success that they want. Because going back to Ben, incredibly proud of who he is and what I've done as a mum now. But I would give absolutely anything to get into a time machine and go back and enjoy all of the moments that led to it. Even the bits where I was frustrated and finding it really difficult to get to the nursery on time to collect him, and realising it was an inset day and I was thinking he was back at school and needing to find childcare. Enjoying the process, finding the joy in every moment, because the ultimate goal of what you're looking for, it's great when you achieve it, but actually then you've achieved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a certain amount of emptiness
Mm-hmm.
that comes with that. So enjoying the.
And I think that's a really good place to leave it, because I couldn't agree more, because it's the process that is the joy. It's the process that is the everyday. And when you if you ever get to the goal that you've set, there'll be the next one that comes right along. And you have to enjoy the process of that too. Enjoy the moments and the bits in between. And I'm definitely going to hug my girls a little bit tighter tonight after speaking to you. That's how I'm feeling at this precise moment in time. And I'm going to try and slow down a little bit. We're going through a very frustrating phase at the moment. So I'm going to count to 10 and enjoy the moments, because like you say, there'll be a time where I want to get in a time machine and go back to those frustrating moments, or maybe the nicer ones, but
They're made even more joyful by the frustration sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And every day has them. Every day has those joyful moments, whatever your life looks like, if you just look for them hard enough sometimes. Thank you so much, Toni. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And as I hope you've seen, I've enjoyed so much of the stories that you have shared, and the tips as well. There's lots of tips in there for people to go back and listen to, if they are wanting to sort out the accountability in their life, for sure.
Lovely.
You.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed.
As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you with 3 takeaways that really stood out for me and that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since the conversation with Toni. First, accountability isn't about pressure. It's about support. It's about that kind, gentle hand around your shoulder when you need that comforting push to get to where you want to go, to remind you of exactly what you wanted to do and what you said you wanted to do in the first place. Progress happens faster when you're not holding everything alone in your head. Second, prioritisation isn't about doing more. It's about choosing better. As the CEO of your business, you want to have the ability to know and work through what that priority should be. You cannot do everything. You might want to eventually, and eventually you probably can, but you have to decide what the move is today. Clarity around what actually matters changes how you use your time and energy. And third, joy doesn't come at the end of the journey. This is the one that has stayed with me since, because as somebody who has joy every day in her life, all over her business, and something that I am on a journey with and talking about a lot, and feel that I'm always very present with, there was a few times where Toni stopped me in my tracks and was that reminder for me, because we all need reminders, no matter what we're good at, no matter what we're the expert in, no matter what our business is, we all need these reminders, which is why coaches, podcasts, all of these things exist. And it's that joy is found in the process, enjoying the process, in the small wins, the follow through, and the moments where you realize you're building something that works in your life, not against it. And I needed that reminder. And it's something that I hope to remind myself of every single day, to enjoy the process of where I'm going, not wait till I think that I've got there. If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on where a little more support or structure could change how you show up in your business and life. And if you'd like to share it with somebody who you think could do with that message too, then please do. Thank you so much for listening to the Joy Work Show, for spending time with us here. I never take it for granted. And if you have enjoyed any of the episodes, including this one, I would love you to come and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, costs you nothing, but it means the world to us, and that I can keep bringing you more guests and keep bringing and spreading the message of the Joy Work Show. So go and subscribe wherever you are watching us. You will never miss an episode. Thank you once again. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode.